I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, Aidan Coughlan. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
Angel, thank you very much. I'm doing well. It's a little bit cold here in the UK, but hopefully this conversation will warm me up. It's great to speak to you.
Love it. You're too sweet. Well, what I do is offer my email that I have in draft saved with Caribbean Sunshine that I can send your way with the press of one button.
I would be absolutely up for that. Please send it immediately after we stop talking.
Wonderful. Well, Aidan, please tell us which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time.
Well, my talent, such as it is, I would hope to say, is having conversations. I don't think the type of conversations that you have a fantastic ability to have very personable conversations. I like to have conversations about sort of political matters and to discuss the state of discourse and to discuss history, culture, and current events.
Who did you learn this skill from, Aidan? Well, first, tell us the name of your podcast.
Yes, thank you. My podcast is called The Aidan Project. You can find it where all good podcasts are sold, so to speak, or at theaidanproject.org. And it's hard to say where I learnt it from because I'm hugely influenced by George Orwell, but of course, there are no recordings of George Orwell's voice. It was something that was never captured, but I consider Orwell and later Christopher Hitchens to be people that have really inspired me.
You know, it's really fascinating. So there are different models of conversations. There, I believe the conversation with yourself, which is one you can have audibly or not, as well as the conversation you have by reading a book where the author's words are there, which is his conversation with himself or the topic. And then you're reading it and you're having a conversation as well, right? To see the conversation that you have had on the podcast, it's really intriguing where you've taken the audio and you've represented yourself over time. On the last episode specifically, I'm talking about. How amazing was that, right? How was that experience for you?
I think one idea that I have in the back of my mind is I'm quite happy that podcast number 206 might express a different opinion to podcast number 5. I think it's possible to change your mind. And I think perhaps we shy away from confronting sort of difficult truths. And I hope that in the podcast, I can always come across as honest and change my opinion as I see the facts changing.
Well done. I visited Andrew Jackson's plantation in Tennessee, or his place of abode at that time, and I was fascinated to hear you speak of Andrew Jackson and his similarities, or not so much similarities, to Donald Trump, right? President Donald Trump. I was just like, wow, isn't it amazing how things connect, right? Who would have thought that I would have known who is Andrew Jackson, and then to hear it on your podcast. So I'm intrigued.
I appreciate that. I think that by looking at the past, we can gain an insight. It doesn't mean that we can prognosticate particularly accurately, but we can gain an insight and we can look at an era that we have at the moment in US politics and say, well, did we have something similar to this before? Because if we did, one way or another, we were able to come through it on the other side.
Where did the love for politics or even expressing history come from?
I think that my main interest in history came from my understanding of the Second World War. And I have been to Auschwitz. I've been to the Jewish Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. And it inspired me to learn more. I actually felt a twinge, well, more than a twinge. I felt a tremendous pang of guilt that I didn't know enough about this. And I feel that there is so much out there to learn. I'll never learn all of it, but I like to be informed, and I kind of live by something of a mantra that might sound a bit sour, but that's if you're not angry, then you're probably not informed. That isn't to say that one should walk around angry all the time, but I feel that many of us live our lives sheltered from perhaps confronting some difficult truths about what's happened in history.
So true. Yeah, I was walking, thinking about that this morning. The thought that came to me is definitely being a black man has its challenges. And I was actually just thinking about being in Tennessee and going to that spot where Andrew Jackson was and where the slaves were. And I said to myself, in my thoughts, just bringing it out because you are touching on some amazing topics here, some intriguing topics. I just thought to myself, you know what? It was something that stood between me dealing with myself. And now that that has been removed to some level, I will focus on myself. And by doing that, focus on helping so many others. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense to me. And I certainly feel that in terms of the identity of black people, for them to have experienced the absolute worst excess of human greed in the sort of the 16th century, and not abolished really until the 19th century, and the legacy that is left is not something that we can shy away from.
Yeah. Well, folks, you're hearing it live here with Aidan. He's the guy that's bringing these things out. He is the guy. Definitely a historic moment right now on the podcast. So, Aidan, tell us one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Well, I obviously need to relax my mind occasionally because it's normally going at 100 miles an hour. I like to get myself in the gym. I like to run. I like to lift. And that's something that I've done consistently really since I was a teenager. And hopefully that will never change.
How does it make you feel?
It's a tremendous release. I don't have any other forms of narcotics. I don't drink or I don't smoke. So really, exercise is my natural drug release. So it makes me feel euphoric until the soreness kicks in and go.
Yeah. So just to someone that's listening, why they do what you've done by finding something, nevertheless, not having the narcotics or the alcohol, but definitely finding something in the midst of it all.
I'm glad you phrased it like that. I was concerned you might phrase, how would I suggest someone to exercise? Because I think it has to be somewhat innate in you. So you're right. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something else. And just finding that, giving you that regular, reliable release from the stresses of everyday life.
Amazing audience. We are live with Aidan Coughlan, and he is the podcast host of the Aidan Project. You could definitely check that out. I believe I went to aidanproject.org. Is that correct?
Yeah,
well?
That's right. It's the aidanproject.org.
All right, the Aidan. Wonderful. The aidanproject.org. Well, Aidan, let's switch gears for a moment right now. Wait. So Aidan is spelled AIDAN for those listening. AIDAN. And Coughlan, COU. Well, it's the Aidan Coughlan Project. It's the Aidan Project. All right, there we go. Ooh, I'm rambling. Well, Aidan, let's switch gears for a moment right now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Aidan, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I seem to have a memory of playing with a young girl in my parents' kitchen. And for some reason, I think we were pretending to be ghosts, and we placed a sheet on each other's head, and we had a horrible moment where our heads cracked, and I can remember that like it happened 5 minutes ago.
Wow, how old do you think you were?
I think I was about 5 or 6, but it's so easy to misremember or think that you remember, but it does feel as real to me as this conversation does.
So why do you think this memory is so clear, and can you connect it to who you are today?
Well, I think that was a moment of reckless abandon. So hopefully I've learnt the lesson that don't put sheets over your head and run around a small room. It never ends well.
Well, that's amazing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Go for it.
I love the idea of what we were speaking about in terms of the quote you said that, what was it? Like, if you're not angry.
I would say if you're not angry, then you're not informed.
Right. And I love the idea of, I don't really love the idea, but the truth of the matter of individuals who are functioning on this earth at this time with sheets over their head and what's happening there. And the fact that you are the individual that has taken the job, if you would, the work, the task to take off that sheet, to reveal what's under so that other people can understand the truth. It's pretty fascinating to me.
I think you've just changed what my memory of a minor concussion was to something far more bold. So I truly appreciate that. That's a fantastic way of interpreting it.
You're welcome. If we fast forwarded to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
I think at that age, I hadn't quite found the genre of music I listen to today. I think when I was 11 or 12, I used to listen to the John Williams film soundtracks all the time. I used to listen to the Superman theme and, the theme to E.T. and Jaws. I seem to remember having a John Williams CD that probably got played all the way until it disintegrated.
That's amazing. All right, my friend. Oh, so you've been preserving history for a while now, right?
Yes, that's right. Luckily, with digital recordings, they don't run the same risks of being damaged, I suppose.
That's wonderful. Well, Aidan, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form, so it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Aidan?
I'm ready.
Aidan, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I hope that people will listen to this in the future and be inspired to do similar things.
Are you married?
I am not.
Do you have children?
I have 2 young boys.
Do you believe in God?
I do not.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
It is my life ambition to do so, but no, I'm afraid not.
What about 3 hours a week?
I can manage 3 hours a week.
And what about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh dear, it's almost certainly far more. It's awful.
Aidan, if you had to share with us a statement that represents you, your own unique real statement, what would you say that is?
Okay, it's somewhat unique because I'm going to borrow and steal from Christopher Hitchens here, but I believe that the essence of the independent mind lies in not what it thinks, but in how it thinks.
Love it. Aidan, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I'd like to say to you, sir, fantastic project you have here. All the very best. And for my audience, I would like to say to you all that no matter whether you operate on the left or the right, try and find a way to listen to each other. And I think only good things can come from talking to each other and listening to various ideas.
Love it. Aidan Coughlan, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.